start the show.
For Thursday, May 30th, 2019, welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. Hello and welcome to our podcast this week. I'm Norm, and for episode 502, I guess we should stop counting because it won't be worth counting until we get closer to the next milestone, which I think should be 1,000. No, maybe
set your sights a little lower.
750, right? 666. 800. I don't know. You tell me what episodes are worth milestoning. But joining me today on this very special occasion is, of course, Jeremy Williams.
Everyone seems like a milestone. Just getting in here, getting organized, and getting started sometimes is a milestone.
Celebrate every one of them.
No, I refuse. I refuse. And, of course, is Zach Radding from Build Cool Stuff. Zach, thanks for joining us this week.
Thank you for having me once again.
Kishore is out this week, I think, dealing with
Episode 501 was too much for him.
Yeah.
He's recovering.
Yes. Yeah. It was too much for me. It was also too much for... Yeah, I enjoyed it. Did you enjoy it, Jeremy?
I really enjoyed it, Norm.
It was cathartic, therapeutic, even.
Yeah, the good news is we have twice as much news to cover this week.
Yes. Yeah, last week I had a whole list of show notes, and we didn't know how we're going to go through, and ended up we just rolled with a retrospective. So we didn't talk about a lot of stuff. So we will be covering basically 2 weeks of technology, pop culture, and VR news this week. But to catch up with everyone first, how were your Memorial Day weekends?
That was nice. Oh, God, I really enjoyed it. I have wanted to tweak my multi-material 3D printer for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I just haven't had a time to do it. And so I set aside Memorial Day to do it, and I got it printing like better than it ever has before, which is, a lot of us who have this thing, we have said that sentence, and it's never all the way, but it's like my hot rod in the garage. If it ever actually did work 100%, then it wouldn't be a project anymore.
Yeah, I guess so.
And so it's just something I've taken upon myself to go in there and tweak and sort of tinker with.
This is the Prusa MK3 with the new multi-material.
Yeah, sort of.
Upgrade.
It's an MK 2.5S.
Oh, okay.
And the MMU 2S. Yeah, this is multi. Why are we getting that clicking? Are you guys hearing that?
I'm hearing it as well.
I do hear it.
I think it's just in the headphones. This is the price we pay.
Are you sure it's in the headphones?
I'm pretty sure it's in the headphones.
All right. Yeah, so this is the multi-filament 3D printing. Like 3D printing already is niche. This is like the niche of a niche. This is if you want to print with 5 filaments, so the 5 different colors, or maybe a dissolvable water-soluble filament or something like that. You can do that. You can do multicolor stuff like this.
Oh my God, there's a little bit of show and tell.
Lightsaber.
This is a reason to watch the video because Jeremy, you walked in today as we were setting up the podcast, and you showed me. No. Do the other thing first. Okay. Now, also as you do this, do you know who? You want to credit the designer?
I do. I'll look that up in a moment.
Okay, so you brought in this.
I said this katana was printed in a single file. This is a single file. I dropped
just like a handle
onto the print bed.
It looks like a beautiful katana hilt.
Yeah.
With the guard for people, and it's full size, 1-to-1 size. It even has on the bottom a nice engraving of
like a texture, like a wrap.
Yeah.
It's got a leather wrap.
It looks like it's been wrapped.
Oh,
the way they've modeled it. It looks like it has like some type of cord.
It's a good feel.
And then
I did this.
Whoa! Oh my goodness!
So that is clearly for people listening. You can hear it's the sound every kid should be familiar with.
Oh yeah,
it's a telescoping blade.
Yeah, exactly. It's what every lightsaber toy
Disney
has done.
toy, yes. And then you blew our minds, Jeremy, and you said that this was printed.
Yeah, it's a single file, as I already said.
Not just single file. It could have been a single file. It's one print.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. You drop it on the print bed and you hit print, and it prints this.
But it's not assembled.
Upside down.
Print in place.
Print in place.
That's the big difference. Because it could have been a single file laid out and assembly required, but it came out like this, popped off.
And then Zach said, Well, somebody's gonna make a lightsaber out of that.
Just
Done.
that fast.
Done. The same
amazing.
guy made the
Who
lightsaber.
needs Star Wars Land?
Of course, like you can also print the lightsaber print in place, but
But if you have a multi-material printer,
well, then you can do a colorized hilt. But you can also, even if you don't have multicolor printer, you can do two, one for the blade.
sure.
I'm blown away that you had all those colors already. You didn't need to buy any extra
got
filament.
A decent collection of filaments.
Like this is Luke's Return of the Jedi saber, and you had the glowing green,
Yeah.
which is UV reactive.
Yeah, you can put a black light in the base and it
You have
lights
this
up.
metallic silver, which looks really nice, and then the black and the tan. And this is really cool. No assembly?
No assembly required.
Even the switch here.
Yeah.
Wow.
But as you can see, like the colors bled. So
Yeah.
if I were to reprint it, I would do longer purges.
Oh my god. And it even has like the overhang on the bottom of the hilt here.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
It's
that's
all,
real
it's,
nice.
It's he made some changes to the design in order for it to print.
Not exactly canon, but
No,
amazingly
but, like
impressive.
this is what I like. My entire everything about my approach to life is let's make concessions to make it easier and more approachable.
Right.
So that's what this it's not canon, but it is simple to make.
Love it.
Oh my god.
So satisfying. The
Wow,
sound,
the good sound of
action.
that plastic. Yeah. That is so cool.
I know what I'm printing tonight.
So it prints upside down.
Yeah.
Right? It's like stacked cups or pyramids.
And that he actually started with that. He
With
made
cups?
the cups first, and then his kid said, "Dad, you should make a lightsaber out of that, or a sword." All
Same
right.
thing I said.
It is a 3D printing world on Thingiverse. Makes the collapsing lightsaber with the removable blade.
All right, I want to see you out there with collapsing lightsabers. And you could just like make as many as you want.
You could,
Because
you
it's
could, and
3D
like
printing.
the hope is like other people would design their own hilts, right?
Yeah.
Or their own.
Yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
they're true
whatever
Jedi.
That's
Exactly.
right. That's
Exactly.
the modern. You got to go CAD your own hilt. Zach, how's your long weekend? Any projects you've been working on?
Good. Much like Jeremy, I've had this kind of long-running personal, well, sort of work project, but it's a personal tool that I've been kind of tinkering on myself, my plasma cutter. I think I mentioned it last time I was here. That was maybe the last time I got to work on it. But this weekend, I actually got it up and running and cutting. So
Punching holes.
punching holes, cutting
dragging that
shapes,
arc.
dragging that arc, making steel bits. Yeah, it's functional. It does a thing.
What do you mean making steel bits?
So it takes sheet steel and turns it into smaller pieces of sheet steel in the shape that you want, much like a laser cutter does to plastic. This does to metal.
Gotcha. I thought you meant bits, like drill bits.
No, bits as in small pieces. So yeah, that was my bit of weekend work, along with the plethora of other projects that I've got going on in the shop. But yeah, that was the fun one.
This past weekend, I was went to Will's place, and Gary was there, and he brought his Oculus Quest, and I brought the one I bought, and also a review unit. So we had 3 Oculus Quests, and while the families were enjoying Quests,
Plural of quests.
nuclear Quests. While the family was enjoying Memorial Day barbecue,
Yeah.
we were in Will's house in VR chat, running around.
You were all doing VR chat?
We were all doing VR chat in the
same
living-
room.
In the same room. Will was in his
Oh.
office, and
So
and-
we've been actually called out on occasion for not spending any time in VR chat. And I think we've all experimented with it. But the other day, you, me, and Kishore actually, we were looking for something to do, and we dove in there officially, like together for the first time. And it was worthwhile.
It was a lot, much improved since the first time
Yeah.
I jumped in.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit. This is the VR chat that works on Quest, and of course on the desktop VR side,
Even Go.
and Go, and I don't think it'd be unfair to call it like an Oasis 0.1.
Yes.
Like a very early metaverse, and it has a lot of the features that you would want out of a metaverse.
Because you can be you can design your own avatars, you can design your own games,
And
rooms.
this is the built-in chat. This isn't a third party.
Well, no, this is third party. Like
Oh.
Oculus has their own social stuff, none of which is on
Okay.
like the room
There's
stuff.
so much copyright infringement in going
Yeah.
on in VR chat. Facebook would never allow it.
And this is not Orbis, which is the MMO, which we will hopefully have more time to dive into. But this is free, and in many ways, it's a lot like Rec Room,
Right.
in that you create your avatar. There are shared spaces. Rec Room is a huge community of people who create their own like mini games or lounges or
they have
level
maker
builders.
the maker pen and all kinds of things you can make, and they say that 2/3 of the time spent in Rec Room is actually spent in that mode.
Yeah.
But all of the things made in Rec Room are made in Rec Room,
Right.
whereas in VR Chat you can use any off-the-shelf 3D rendering tool.
And you build credibility with the time you spend in there, which gets you a chance to then upload your avatars, upload the things you've made. And it's exactly the kind of weird stuff that you'd expect out of a 0.1 metaverse, from karaoke bars where they have it designed where you have links that you can grab that download the YouTube video. And so it plays the YouTube version of a song so that you're watching the YouTube stream and then singing along karaoke.
Wow.
Can other people see it?
Yes. Yeah. Only on the desktop side, not on the Quest side.
Got it.
And then to mini games, like we had a Tron game, a disc of Tron. We had so much fun.
Yeah,
Three of us
it was
playing
pretty fun.
a very janky version of the Tron, like the Tron Legacy version of that disc game, where you're throwing out the ground, and the throwing mechanics aren't great, but it's kind of fun. And then we spent like at least an hour.
Yeah.
It might have been 2 hours. Time meant nothing once we were in this game called Don't Touch the Red Block.
You'll never guess what the rule is.
I doesn't take much.
And these rooms can
Hold on. Did you win?
No. That's why we're in there for 3 hours. These rooms can fit like 10 people, right? And they're instances. And the cool thing is, like, as you are in the hub, like Rec Room has a thing where if you're in the main gym, you don't know if it's an instance of that gym. It can be populated, but if you're not with your friend, you don't know what that gym is, right? You're like, oh, we're just in separate. Your gym is full, so I have to find an empty one, and so we can meet up.
Sure, just randomly selected server that you're on.
Exactly. In VR Chat, they're all assigned numbers. And so if you open up your wristwatch and you see the world you're in the play gym number 26422, and then you can see all the other instances and how many people are in them. You can actually find that instance, which is neat. So this game, found ourselves all in the same. And one of the cool things is if you're with a friend, you can drop portals. I can open up and say, oh, I'm gonna enter this new environment, this new instance. And rather than other people then going to the wristwatch and say, follow my friend, you can drop a portal and everyone just runs through it and they all go. Wow. And so it feels like it's more interconnected that way from
so now I'm printing
physical sense.
I'm printing a lightsaber and I'm playing VR Chat tonight. Like, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. So back to this game, and I know we're getting ahead of ourselves because there's a lot of VR to talk about. It is kind of like this. It's like the VR equivalent of an addictive Flash puzzle game. Or if you remember back in like an old Quake level, and it has one rule: don't touch the walls, don't touch anything that's red. And it's basically an obstacle course in VR. 25 levels, go from very simple moving pillars that you need to like kind of navigate around, to mazes that you have to navigate around, to
seems perfect for Quest.
Perfect,
being wireless.
To laser grids you have to kind of jump around.
Catherine Zeta-Jones style.
Increasingly difficult very quickly.
All made by one person. So the graphics are not the main story here, right? It's just the gameplay.
Sure.
But what's interesting is that there's like 10 people in this room with you, and everybody sees the level they're on in this room, but everyone else sees the level they're on. But you can see everybody else all the time.
All the avatars are multi-present throughout the different levels.
They are... So the people are moving around based on the level that they are on.
Yes.
But you're not seeing that level necessarily unless you happen to be on the same level.
Because the overarching, all the levels are based on one template, like one long hallway. You just got to get from point A to point B.
What's your avatar? Is it fully rendered, or is it just hands in a head, or?
It's fully rendered. You have a full, it's not full IK, but your avatar has feet and has a body.
So you see them crawling around and doing goofy things.
You see them more like kind of bouncing around.
Okay, like Rec Room style, kind of like.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. Kishore was some kind of small rat creature,
which was hilarious because it was a different height, and so we just called him like Rocket Raccoon. I was like petting him the whole time. He was running away from me.
His viewpoint changed, so does he look up at everybody?
Yeah.
Oh wow, this is fun.
In fact, at one point, I forget what game it was, but he couldn't reach something.
Didn't they have to on Job Simulator have a kid mode so they could reach things?
Right. Right, and I thought Will and Gary would love this Red Room game.
Yeah.
They hated it because he had no patience for it. But what he really loved was being in just the public space, checking out all the IP infringing avatars. And if you meet an avatar and you see it's really cool, you can download and clone it. And so he was like, I want to be Spider-Man. Oh, I'm going to collect this avatar. And so you can be in this, like Rec Room, be in this gym, playing faux basketball with Santa Claus, an anime character, Scooby-Doo, and Spider-Man. And everyone's just kind of having their own fun. And
infringing away.
It was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
I like the mini games. So that's how we spent Memorial Day weekend.
It did feel like the Oasis Point one.
Yeah. Which I think Will says that's like the worst way you could sell VR to me. Like he's not interested in that.
In the Oasis?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I know. I'm super interested.
I don't
but
even
I think
buy that.
he wants more games.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want the seedy underbelly of the VR internet.
Oh, wow.
Which, your experiences may vary. We're going to time travel back 1 week as well, because last week we didn't really talk about Maker Faire either.
Oh, sure.
And all
back to
three
me.
of us were at Maker Faire to some extent for a couple days. I want to hear about the best things that each of you saw there.
Well, you covered it on Tested. It was not Octo Tank, but Quad Tank. It was like
Mech Warfare.
Yeah, well, it's called Mech Warfare, but the tanks themselves were really interesting robotics, and they were driven with a first-person view camera by pilots in the back.
Yeah.
And they had airsoft rifles attached to them, and they would battle each other.
Nice.
And they had sensors on them so that they could detect when they were hit, but they also were in this miniature city that had all of these different things on the buildings that could be knocked off. And it looked so fun to play because the camera mounted on these tanks, looked very authentic. I mean, it looked rugged and like dangerous, and you would learn. It seemed like there was some, learning curve to learning how to navigate and use the tanks and steer properly in order to line up your sights.
Right.
But it was the kind of thing that I saw and I wanted to do.
Oh, it's kind of thing that you guys are doing a version of.
At Other Ocean, sure, yeah.
With Tank Ball.
Yeah, well, I was impressed by their camera gear because they're getting nice, clean signals.
As clean as you could, analog signals from these FPV. Low latency.
Compared to what we're getting, they're getting good signal.
Yeah, they don't need to convert it to digital, fortunately for them, because they're all doing it locally in the same room as those tanks.
Yeah, but it's the same problem. It's just it's that analog transition from, transmitter to receiver.
Yeah.
And I've been in touch with them to
great.
get some tips.
Nice.
The brilliant thing for that is that it doesn't need to be destructive. Right.
Yeah.
It's not battle bots.
You don't want it to be destructive. There's a fine line because people driving them kind of want the destruction, but you also have to scratch that itch, but also make it, playable
and they're getting
replayable.
Exactly, and they're getting some type of action with airsoft guns, which off the shelf, take an AEG airsoft gun, build your hopper, invert the gun, basically, essentially, mount on top of the tank. And the real clever thing is whoever's organizing the league sets up the target point. So every tank has different specifications. You can make it tall, you can make it move in whatever profile you want, but they must have 4 Velcro mount points that become the hit spots.
Right.
And the hit spots are all shared, these 4-inch by 4-inch plates that are all tied to one receiver. Then you Velcro those on, and then the league can program in your cooldown for how many times you can be hit per second, the impact sensor on those hit points, how far you can hit. And so all those things can be calibrated for the different classes of the competition.
It's a really neat way of kind of combining the digital and analog, sort of augmenting these things, which you're doing with Tank Ball and these guys are doing with Velcro.
Yeah.
I love it.
And they're doing what the FPV racers did, which is broadcast for the audience.
Yeah,
so the audience can watch on big screen monitors the perspective, because it's just broadcasting an analog signal.
Everybody can
the
listen.
Drivers. And so you technically could just put on, one of those glasses.
Oh, and just receive it.
And
Why
just
not?
receive tune into the signal.
Yeah.
You're switching between the views, because then you get the tank perspective. Everything looks big.
That'd be cool.
right?
Yeah.
As opposed to seeing it on the TV.
Also, just broadly speaking, I brought my 9-year-old daughter to Maker Faire for the first time. And I had previously brought my 12-year-old son. Of course, he wasn't 12 in the past, but and he wasn't, he thought it was cool, but he didn't like the crowds at all. And it's quite a crowded experience. So I wasn't so sure what she would like, whether or not she should come. She's kind of waffling. She had these 2 play dates the same day.
Oh.
So it's a little bit of a difficult decision, but we brought her and she freaking loved it.
Great.
It was the best decision she had. And it was a little bit rainy too. It wasn't even the perfect day, But she's such a creative person that I think just being immersed in all of those projects,
Stimulation.
and all kinds of things to take in, she liked it a lot.
I mean, Maker Faire, if you've been there for a couple of years, you do see a lot of the same folks, and it's great to connect with those people and see new things they're working on. And so it is a little bit of a hunt to see like the unique things. And
well, that's I don't go for the things as much as the people. For me, it's a people experience. So going to actually talk to the makers, and getting that one-on-one with them and seeing how excited they are to tell you about their project. Like, that was really the thing for me that was exciting, and that's why I go. It's just to see.
Have you ever brought something to Maker Faire?
So back in 2006, I actually did a demo on casting at Maker Faire when it was much more hands-on, and we made a booth where you could go cast your finger. And
it's a little mold, silicone mold,
not silicone. We used alginate, so it's really quick, like what they use to take dental impressions, and then filled it up with the fast setting smooth on resin, and everybody walked away with a little plastic finger.
Nice.
And it was a lot of fun.
I mean, as you guys know, projects are never finished. And really cool.
Most of mine.
Only abandoned.
And I think the best stuff that's shown are stuff that's in progress, or you can catch up a year later, 2 years later. That kid, I say kid, he's like, probably older now, Jack Turner, who's been restoring the Rockfire Explosion animatronics. He was there, and to see the improvements that he's gotten since 2 years ago, when we first saw him, and have that basically play as a whole band, that was super awesome.
They're going. Yeah. No, it's good.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to Avid CNC, the CNC folks. If you talk about plasma cutting, they had their 4-axis CNC there. They were making.
They had a router. They had a plasma cutter. They had a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, they had a Rainfall Projects, which is a guy up north who does YouTube videos and projects, who's building a giant plasma cutting the whole time, these big sheets of steel, and making an Eiffel Tower model that was like 10 foot tall throughout the course of the fair. So that was really cool to watch that come together, just like sheets of steel and zip ties. And they were making crossbows that they were giving out, which was really neat. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Every half hour. They're machining most of the parts needed for a ping pong ball crossbow.
So it was like a lottery?
Lottery, yeah. People would gather every half hour. But the fact that they would make with their 4-axis, right, the stock, and they would plasma cut the metal for the bow, and then kind of have a mechanism, and it was a really cool design. It was just like the most tangible way you can see what a CNC could do.
Absolutely. Very nice.
We'll have a bunch more of these videos from Maker Faire going up on the site, but you should check those out if you haven't already. And if you were there, thanks for saying hi. If you saw things that we didn't get to cover, please let us know, because we'd always love to get in touch with those makers, whether they're local or around the world. Shall we get to our top story this week?
Top story this week.
Top story is going to be a hardware tech story. Surprise, no pop culture story to kick things off. And this is maybe the coolest thing we've seen in a long time. Right, maybe since the Ouya. No.
Hey now.
Which unfortunately is kind of going away. But a new game console, independent game console made by folks who've never done hardware before. Panic is the company. They're makers of apps, desktop apps, mobile apps, and widely successful.
Firewatch.
They spun off and started doing games publishing.
Yeah, they published Firewatch.
They published the popular Goose game that's on Steam right now, the Untitled Goose game.
It says soon Untitled Goose Game. I don't think it's out yet.
I think people have seen early versions of
it.
Kind of irreverent games. Firewatch is obviously a very boutique, adventure game, very well received by the Campo Santo folks, developed by, and then now they're of course a part of Valve. But the folks at Panic have been over the past couple of years working on a portable game console, and they announced this past week. It's called Playdate, and it's not like any game console we've seen before. Low res monochrome screen, small form factor, very thin, but it has two things that are novel about it. One, in addition to your standard D-pad and two action buttons, it has a crank. Why does it need a crank?
Oh, well, that's easy. It sets it apart, Norm. That's why we're talking about it. It wouldn't be at the top of the show.
How else are you going to sharpen your pencils?
It basically looks like that, right? On the right
does.
side, the top has
Yes.
an analog crank, which gives you some type of analog rotating forward,
it's a-
backward direction.
Interesting interface choice.
Well, okay. Yes, that's right. And that is interesting. It's interesting that just a new interface into a gaming console of some
Well-
kind can create this kind of buzz.
Well, what's interesting is, I mean, so I look at that and I've actually seen, lots of kind of, handheld games. The fact that it's a console that has this, I think, is what makes it unique, because there's actually a lot of like fishing games and things that have, sort of use specific interfaces that are, similar to this.
That only play one game.
But only play one game. Like it's a purpose built, like you're, bass fisherman, whatever, and you can.
I mean, what are the actions that you get with a crank that you couldn't do with like a thumbstick, right? Well, you can ramp up, you can speed up, you can slow down, you go forward and backward very quickly.
Right, it's a jog dial.
It's a jog essentially, right? And the action requiring more physical action means that you have to be more measured in how you
Sure.
decide to do it.
Sure.
It's not just a thumb press or a thumb movement.
No, it's really fascinating. I mean, I think what'll be interesting to see is if developers find unique ways to.
I got to tell you, I was at Other Ocean yesterday, and they're all abuzz about it. Like they dig this idea. They just love the idea of playing with the new interface. They're joking about Model T Grand Theft Auto.
You got to crank it up.
Yeah.
Vroom, vroom, vroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got your juicing simulator.
Well, it reminds me of remember on the original Wii, the WarioWare, all the little demos. It feels like the embodiment of those demos.
Yes.
Of like,
I would love to see that kind of creativity applied to this.
So the other thing that's novel about this is their game release strategy and what you're buying. And this maybe is the more brilliant thing. Is
You mean from a business standpoint?
from tapping into getting people excited and the shared experience of owning this console.
Okay, yeah.
Right, because it's not open development. They've already chosen the developers to make the 12 games that are going to launch with this next year, and those 12 games are not games that you play all at once. They're unlocked once a month. Is that what it's like?
I think so.
Once a month, every month on a certain day, everyone who owns a Playdate
Gets
will
a new
get
game.
to, open the box and reveal a new game and play together and talk about it on social media.
And do you think the cost of all those games are bundled into
they
the
are
cost
the
of
first
the Playdate?
season. They said the first season, $150
Gotcha.
gets you the 12 games
And the Playdate.
which they call season 1, and then which gives them opportunity, if it's successful, to develop over the course of the next year or however many months the season 2 and have people unlock the next batch of games and iterate. And I think it's a really clever thing.
It plays on an interesting dynamic. I mean, I think even Netflix is starting to realize that just giving away the whole thing all at once it takes away a little bit of that energy.
Well, Netflix does the thing where, yes, you binge a show, but they also drop shows on a very specific date and stagger their releases. So it is appointment viewing for the specials, for when certain things drop. Movies especially, things like Bandersnatch or TV shows. Here, it's appointment gaming in the same way, so you never feel like you're behind, right? These aren't 40-hour AAA titles that you feel like crippled with indecision in November, where you don't know if you're going to spend the money on this game or that game, and then now you feel behind. And now,
shared anticipation,
and which allows the breathing room for people to have their internet water cooling moments and discovery, and allows also, from a development standpoint, to not be pressured into releasing tons of things at once.
They're on the cover of Edge?
On the cover of Edge magazine. I thought it was a mock-up cover.
Smokes.
No,
It's like, you too can be on there, but no, this is an actual cover. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see if each of the games has enough kind of, things about it that are compelling to warrant talking about it and really sharing it and going, hey, is this, this is my experience. What's your experience?
It's totally made for those video game aficionados and collectors, and even if it's something that doesn't succeed, it looks like a beautiful piece of engineering.
Yeah.
That 4 or 5 years down the line, people will be happy to have. And $150 isn't that expensive considering all the custom hardware, and they know that. They know that this is not a mass market device. This is not going to be a Nintendo Switch. It's not going to even be one of those like Atari things you'd buy at Target, right? Those like single play
Right.
games, right? It is a boutique piece of hardware for a highly engaged gamer that maybe wants something different. Than they have all the consoles and they
Sure.
want something different.
It seems like the perfect Kickstarter, and yet they're not.
Yeah.
Well, they have some money. That's
yeah,
the, that's,
yeah.
that's
They're
kind of
all self-funded and
Yeah.
they can
Yeah.
do what they want.
And-
True, but Kickstarter has been.
for publicity
Yeah.
and for
There's a lot of people with
promotion.
money putting things on Kickstarter.
It's true.
just
they don't
for-
want to commit, right? If they did it as a Kickstarter, they'd have to scale up. Maybe they don't want to manufacture that much. They said sign up for the newsletter because it will be limited
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
quantity.
Which again is that play on that anticipation, that whole thing. I mean, to me, it looks like. I mean, if you told me before I read this that Nintendo put this out, I'd be like, oh yeah, this looks like the kind of weirder, quirkier side of Nintendo. It has a lot of the same stylings. I mean, it's got the D-pad and it's it's got A/B button. It looks very retro Game Boy. And it's like, oh yeah, this could be the next Labo or whatever it is. It plays on those same kind of
Because
things.
Nintendo has experimented with interface more than anyone else.
Absolutely.
With the Wii inventing the D-pad.
Well, even their old,
Analog
very
stick.
old,
the VR Boy,
single-
even the little games, little tiny, the watch
tiny,
games.
Yeah,
and-
exactly. From Panic's perspective, they can't possibly see this as a big business. Like their core business, selling software, is what's going to pay the bills. This is totally a fun thing. I think their metric for success is, one, selling as many units as they can when they manufacture, and everyone buying one of those, loving
The experience.
this device.
Right.
It's not going to be like a Kickstarter. If they did a Kickstarter and they sold 5 times as many as they planned on, maybe a lot of those would sit in drawers. And I feel like for them, if everyone who buys this is then passionate about it, that is a bigger.
If I go back to once a
Satisfaction.
month, that's probably more than I have to my Switch since Zelda came out.
And definitely more than people have done with their Ouya's. To go back to
Damn.
Kickstarter successes, hardware boutique
It's true.
game console
Yeah.
successes, like having 100 people love it and play it once a month is way better than 500 people
Yeah.
who put it in their drawer.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a brilliant play. Like it really could bring the buzz. I mean, it clearly has.
Which is another way to say, hey, we'd love to check one out. Hey, Panic.
Should we move on?
That's the move on.
Finally. Go. No, I don't want to edit the file. This is horrible.
All right, again, 2 weeks of news to go through. Let's go with the big one. Vanity Fair once again had a big exclusive, beautiful photos from Annie Leibovitz for Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. It almost is a tradition now when a new big Star Wars movie comes out, there's going to be this huge cover story in Vanity Fair, and they're going to get Annie Leibovitz to take these wonderful, gorgeous photos that really open your imagination to what can be.
A little taste
yeah.
of what's to come.
And I did not read the article.
Because
I didn't want to spoil.
You were spoiler free.
I did take a look at the photos.
You were reading it only for the photos. Isn't that the
I-
other? It's
Yes.
the opposite.
Yep. But did you read the article, Jeremy?
It's a long article, but I did read most of it.
What was your takeaway?
I can tell you a line from the script.
I don't want to hear a line from the script.
Vanity Fair says they're 100% sure it will be cut because it's been in this article.
Oh.
And it's only 2 words.
Okay.
Spoken, I'll give you the line. Common emblem.
Common emblem.
Yeah, that's right. Who do you think speaks that line? I'll give you a
Common-
clue. It's the only actor who's been in all 9 films.
C-3PO.
Yes. Anthony Daniels. And he couldn't remember the line. So they're going to have to ADR it.
But it might be cut anyway.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's it's an interesting piece about Star Wars, talking about the interesting thing to me is that they really are, and maybe this is all part of the marketing, but they are talking about this as the finale. This is the end of this trilogy of trilogies.
Yeah,
However, we've thought that before.
many times.
And so who's to say, but if this really is wrapping things up, I'll be very curious to see how JJ does that.
I mean, we went into this new trilogy expecting a new cast of characters, falling in love with the characters, and we've grown with them, from Rey and Poe and Finn and BB-8, and the idea was it would be a passing of the torch, right, from the old guard to the new guard, and they've slowly done that. Is the expectation now that post Rise of Skywalker, is that it for Kylo, Rey, Poe, and Finn, or will they go on and have their own adventures?
The name is Rise of Skywalker. Like, it is sort of the end and the beginning kind of. I mean, they've definitely left it open for.
Yeah, what does it mean?
I know, right?
Who knows? Even the article, shares a couple internet theories of what it could mean.
Right.
I don't even want to guess. I'm just going to go and go along for the ride.
They've got your $20 already.
Yeah, it's Star Wars. You got to see it.
All right.
It looks beautiful.
Yes. I mean, the photos do make it look beautiful. I think the costuming looks wonderful. Just a little bit hints here and there.
They did share one story from the last movie where Daisy Ridley force lifts some rocks in the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And apparently those were real rocks. And so she was in the zone, like trying to move the rocks as an actor, and the rocks moved.
Wait. You're not talking about the end of the film. You're talking about when she's training.
I'm talking about at the end, after, like, when she comes out of the cave.
And those rocks, those were not real rocks.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. Maybe
I think you're talking about the
when
training,
she was training.
Because she had the one hand.
The little rocks?
The little rocks.
Maybe they were the little rocks.
I could see those being real.
Well, in any case, they were rocks that were actually on strings. And she was so in the zone that, in her mind,
she had the force.
She force moved those rocks.
That's cool.
Yeah. It would be a nice little moment.
The Method Jedi.
There was an article that came out 2 weeks ago that blew my mind about Avengers Endgame.
Oh, yeah?
And, of course, there's a lot of just really great CG articles about how they did the Thanos performance capture, the Hulk performance capture.
Like specifically for Endgame, or how they've been doing that since
and how they've changed.
Oh, interesting.
Between Infinity War and Endgame, the tech changed, and they could do different things. Yeah.
Wow.
To make it more, just subtly more believable. Not in surrendering, but also the rigging and. But something that I did not know was those time suits.
The white ones.
The white ones that they had. The quantum
Beautiful.
suits.
Yeah.
We're gonna see those this Halloween, I bet.
Oh. Totally.
They're beautiful. Whatever material they were made out of, some type of like neoprene.
Unobtainium, apparently.
Yeah, right. Well, they're truly unobtainium because they were never actually fabricated. Every single time suit that you see in the film was CG. Jeremy has a face.
Seems like a lot of work.
Well, according to the article, it was because they didn't have the design finished, and they were shooting these back to back, and they didn't have the time to fabricate those suits or know what they were going to look like. And so when
the ultimate
Ant-Man,
procrastination.
When Ant-Man does his experiment, when Jeremy Renner goes and does it, the suits, they bend, they go in light, and they are all sorts of environments.
Yeah.
Like the helmets I expected, because they have like the impossible mechanical action of wrapping around the head. But even the suits are 100% CG.
It
blew my mind.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
People always complain, like, oh, CG's so bad. I know when CG... They never complain when they don't know it's CG.
That's right.
That's going to happen more and more.
Yeah. It's. I mean, I think if you look at the stills now, you could, like, kind of trick your brain into thinking, okay, I can kind of see the way light's bouncing off of here.
Funny. Yeah, but then 6 months from now, they're going to say, fooled you!
It was
they
real.
were real! All the fanboys.
Just to troll the trolls. But it just goes to show, like, that's how good they are. That they're so confident that they can have these photorealistic-looking, soft materials. Like the big thing with Iron Man, the reason they could do the first Iron Man was because not only did they fabricate a suit, but that the hard materials looked photorealistic. Same with Transformers, right? Back in 2007, 2009, you could do like the light bouncing off metal looking convincing in all these shots, and now they have soft materials.
Well, I mean, these are skin tight for the most part. They're not big flowy dresses and things like that, but
they do bend.
They
crease.
They do,
right?
Absolutely.
With the elbows and the knees.
I mean, I think it's just a progression, right? We're gonna get to the point where, it's 100% CG, and you're not gonna know.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't necessarily want to commit to the CG or the design just yet, because what if a creative decision is made later on to change the design? You want to push your movie back a couple months, like Sonic the Hedgehog?
Oh, that's right.
Did you hear about this?
Yeah.
To de-teeth him?
Well, I don't know exactly what they're going to do, but the first trailer for the Sonic movie came out, and widespread backlash about the look of Sonic, which is like it is what it is. You got to give the filmmakers creative freedom.
And the internet is what it is. Like
that's true.
The filmmakers can take that and just deal with it.
Yes, right.
Don't read the comments.
They read the comments. They read the comments, and they've officially delayed the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, presumably to redo some of the looks or kind of tune maybe the character design. So that's the unfortunate thing with releasing trailers and having just the open soapbox for everyone.
Yeah.
Next up,
were you a Sonic guy? Did you have a Sega Genesis?
I had a Sega Nomad.
What the heck is that?
That was the Genesis. That was the Game Gear form factor, but you could put Genesis cartridges.
Yeah,
in there.
fancy.
Yeah, I was one push pixels, like even back then. Like
you didn't have a TurboGrafx 16?
No, I didn't have a Jaguar.
Oh,
I'm sorry, not Jaguar. Lynx.
Oh, the Lynx. Oh, yeah,
Lynx was for people who wanted like the real,
the
real,
was
like
real
handheld
graphics
32-bit.
Yeah,
fancy.
California Games on that was great.
That was the big the magazine ads. That was the one thing they had. California Games.
It was
on
good.
every.
But
every
the Nomad was 6 AA batteries, I want to say. A ton of AA batteries. Drained them immediately, but it fit
a handheld that took full Genesis games?
Genesis cartridges.
It's crazy.
With the screen, and if you want it better than Game Gear, you could have the Nomad. It was expensive. This might be my mic that's doing this. I'm not sure what's going on. I think it's my mic.
Is it your mic? So it is going out.
I think it is going out. I'm sorry out there for everyone here.
No.
I'm not going to touch the mic from here on out. I'm not going to even try to fix it.
All right.
Let's roll with it.
All right.
But to answer your question, I was not a good Sonic player. I played that first level a lot.
Replayed that first level.
Yeah, me too. I rented a Genesis, back when you could do that from Blockbuster, and I don't know. I was more of a Mario player than a Genesis. Like Sonic. Sonic just went too fast for me, and I was more of a completionist. I wanted to find everything.
But the graphics look so good. The ambient environment
and
stuff.
It sounded great. No, graphics were great, and once if you could get into it, let yourself go and just go with the flow. And, yeah, it was fun. It was definitely an amazing game, but yeah.
Few bits more of movie news. Matt Reeves' Batman film. This is again news from last week. May have cast their Batman being Robert Pattinson from
Twilight.
I was gonna say Harry Potter, but yes, from Twilight. Did we talk about this last week on the podcast?
No.
Any thoughts on this?
No
thoughts.
I don't know.
It's not going to compete with Nolan, so I mean, I hope
like
it does.
Matt Reeves. I like the Planet of the Apes movies he made. I like that he's publicly said he's going for a more detective noir story, and Robert Pattinson can scowl.
He can scowl, but can he do the deep growly voice?
I don't think they need the deep growly voice. I think what they did with the Ben Affleck voice and just made it sound like you had a
robotic
voice modulator in there. That worked. Yeah, I'm totally fine with it. I think that there could have been much worse options. And
absolutely. No, I'm sure as an actor he'll do great. It feels like it's just been recycled just way too often and too close together to get any sort of
room to
something
breathe.
new. Yeah, I feel like it's been sort of DC overload in that same little tiny bit of universe.
Kind of like Spider-Man, right? We had
a little bit,
3 Spider-Men in a span of a decade.
They finally nailed it,
and maybe this is when they'll finally get that Batman.
They just iterate until they do get it.
No, they did. They did with Christopher Nolan, as you said, like that
with Christian Bale.
Yeah,
I think there are still faults to the Christian Bale Batman, like the voice and the things he had to stick with throughout.
But the story was so good.
Story was great.
The Nolan story just.
Well, he made a crime thriller. He made Heat, but with superheroes, with Batman. So maybe Matt Reeves is gonna make Maltese Falcon with Batman.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Give me a different take. And you know what? In the DC canon, the comic book canon, it works because just think of all as Elseworlds versions of each other. There's no single canonical Batman. Read the comic books if you want that. The movies are just the director's take, and Batman can be a reflection, more a reflection of the director than it is of the comic book, which it has been, right? Nolan's liked the gritty crime dramas. Burton loved his, kind of weird Burton Gothic stories, and Matt Reeves will do his version of it.
Yeah, well, I'll wait and see.
Other directorial news. Akira has a new director, Taika Waititi. Who did,
How many directors have they gone through so far?
I've gone through a lot of different production groups.
They've been talking about Akira since it came out in anime.
Yep. Live action version. The real question is, is it going to be set in Neo Tokyo? Is it going to be a Western city?
What? What do you mean? It would be Neo Tokyo.
That's what we assume. But we could also see a world where the studio said, "Hey, let's just make this
Scarlett Johansson it
to Tokyo and make it in New York."
Oh,
right. I don't know.
All right.
We don't know.
Okay.
And I'm just really curious. I don't think it necessarily has to have Taika Waititi's sense of humor in it. He might infuse it with some of that, but.
There's not a whole lot of humor in the original film.
No, exactly. So I think what he did with Thor and making it kind of a retro vibe with the 80s, like the very first graphic we saw of Ragnarok was that video game-esque logo.
Yeah.
He can bring the feeling of a different time to a movie.
That's true.
Yeah. And this could be more of that, like, what the future looked like in the 80s.
The retro future.
Exactly.
Sign me up. I can't wait. I'm glad that CG has evolved as far as it has while this film has been in limbo, because that's going to benefit this film a lot.
Now we can actually see those big epic cityscapes and all of those imagery that just wasn't possible
those
before.
Bike trails.
Bike trails.
A franchise that did not age well as the technology got better, because I think it too liberally used some of the technology, was the Terminator franchise. Right? When the first Terminator came out, we didn't have, it was groundbreaking with the kind of puppeting they did with the T-800, with the CG they did in Terminator 2, and then they just kind of went to the same old bag of tricks and just, threw more horsepower at it, more
Salvation and all of those.
Exactly. It became Transformers films.
Yeah.
So James Cameron returning to produce Terminator Dark Fate has us curious, and the first trailer for that is out as well, which gives us a first glimpse at their versions of the Terminators, and it seems like a return to like the Robert Patrick form factor of like an everyman Terminator that is just relentless, and the fear of no matter where you are, you're being hunted is what I want to get out of this film. It is, of course, the return of Sarah Connor. They're doing what Halloween did in that it's not a hard reboot, it's not a soft reboot, it's just we're choosing this film to be a sequel to the film that was early on the franchise.
James Cameron said it is a direct sequel of number
Terminator
2. Yeah.
The other ones don't exist in his mind, and this can work, right? Halloween did the same thing.
Who is Tim Miller?
He directed Deadpool, the first Deadpool.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, that's promising.
Yeah. So he certainly knows
he can do some action.
Yep. It's
though
funny.
The trailer, there's an explosion in the trailer that I'm like, it looks like the worst comped explosion that I've seen in a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know. Where she fires the bazooka.
Oh,
it looked off.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm just too critical.
Yeah. I just wanted to see one. I mean, Terminator films are best when they're one long chase. Right? From beginning to end, you don't feel like
they're
you have a moment to
relentless.
breathe. The relentlessness is the defining attribute of the Terminator.
That was definitely 2. That was it.
Right. Any moment to breathe, you felt was like you as an audience could breathe as well, but then it would just go and go and go.
Mm-hmm. Also, T2 and T3, excellent pinball games.
Oh, really?
Yes, excellent. Both by Steve Ritchie.
Huh. Which one's better, you think?
T2.
Okay. All right.
Much like the movies.
It's a much far better film as well. A couple TV show teasers. Jessica Jones season 3. This is the final Marvel Netflix show. They've canceled all the other ones. They've canceled this one. And so it'll be kind of a swan song for that. The teaser doesn't really give a lot of information. You do see a hint of a new villain. But I touched the chord again. I'm sorry. But I'll watch it. I think it's...
Yeah. Westworld?
So Westworld, did you guys watch this
yes.
teaser? Okay, so you watched season 2 of Westworld, didn't you?
I did not watch season 2. I watched season 1. I thought it was so good, but there was nothing that brought me back to 2.
Yeah, why was that? That's
I
for
don't
me
know.
too. It's a real commitment.
Oh, absolutely. But and I don't feel like I missed anything. Like there wasn't the same. I don't know. They're just like the first one, but just grabbed me so well, but it didn't make me want more.
It takes a lot for me to watch a series, and it was you like going on and on about how it wasn't just like an excellent show, but if you look at it from a game player standpoint or a game design standpoint, and what the people who designed the world of Westworld would have had to consider with
The world building of Delos.
if they're charging thousands of dollars for participants per week.
Yeah.
That's just a really interesting concept.
And season 1 definitely delved more into that. Season 2 is a little more high concept. You know, they've written themselves in the corner with season 1 having so many twists and turns as you got to the final 3 episodes that they needed something like that for season 2. And season 2 has some big ideas that they leave hanging. It's divisive. I think you got to watch if you want to see the continuation of Dolores' journey. And season 2, spoiler, ends like outside of the park. Right, like it is no longer contained.
Don't tell me, I might watch it.
Well, they show you scenes outside the park from the very first episode.
I know.
Also, so season 3, the question is, where does her journey go from here? Mm-hmm. And the teaser is itself a twisty teaser because it opens with Aaron Paul, with from Breaking Bad,
Yep.
And he looks like he's just someone in this futuristic world working in some job.
He'd be a good Batman.
No, he wouldn't. No.
He seems a little young.
No.
We're talking about the guy from the vampire movie, like being Batman.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
Aaron Paul can't brood. Junkie Batman. No.
Junkie Batman.
Did you see Need for Speed? So Aaron Paul going on some heists. He's like, it looks like a dystopian society for sure. And then at the end of the teaser, he encounters Dolores, and you realize it's Westworld season 3. And so if you follow the Westworld movies, there was Westworld and there was Future World, which is the return to the park. And this seems like taking the idea of Future World, except taking it outside of the park, showing what society looks like now that in the world that could build a Westworld.
That replicants now.
Right. Although there are theories that it is just another park.
A park within a park.
It's like a GTA style park where people are paying to be in this, futuristic world, and they can pick up missions and they can go on bank robberies and stuff like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Very excited. A lot of cool world building. But probably not as excited as the big teaser drop this past week, which is...
That was a real tease.
Star Trek Picard.
Yes.
CBS All Access coming this fall.
It's really happening.
It's happening.
That's great.
There's a vineyard.
There's
the same vineyard. The
The
same vineyard from All Good Things, right?
The same vineyard from
a
Family.
ton of, like
the episode
Was he not in All Good Things?
He was. And that was, Picard with the big beard, however many years later. The idea is that it sounds like he's back on Earth running a vineyard. Mm-hmm. There's a voiceover from Gina Torres.
They show his wine label.
Yeah.
Like Picard Vineyards or something?
It looked like a commercial for a vineyard. And the only thing that made it Trek was the last 5 seconds.
The poster for it is actually the Federation emblem, done from a topographical, like with the grapevines,
like a crop circle,
like a crop circle with the vineyard, but looking like. And I'm like, that wouldn't be. Yeah. That wouldn't work as a way to lay out your grapes, to sow your grapes. But you get the slightest hint of a story about him as an admiral
or
quitting
Yeah.
Starfleet, some bold rescue mission, something going wrong, and why he needs to return.
So it almost sounds like they're lining it up to be all flashback based.
Oh, because there's some mystery of like what this thing.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Do you think they'll CG a younger man?
No.
Okay.
It must be like recent, like he'll either play 15 years after Star Trek and 20 years after Star Trek. He'll play, both post Next Generation.
If anybody could do that range, he could, but
I don't think they have the budget to do
the de-aging.
Not on TV.
I've been listening to his voice recently in Shadowpoint, which is a new game on Rift and Quest, or is it only on Quest at the moment? In any case, he does the voiceover for it, and it's excellent. But his voice sounds different, and I know that he's a voice actor, and maybe that's intentional, but it's also possible that he's just aged, and so he does sound... I'm not sure he could sound like next gen Picard anymore.
Well, that's been a few years.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything more to say about the Picard. I mean, we're all looking forward to it.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
That might actually get me to get CBS All Access. It might.
The question is, though, does this show need any returning cast members?
I need a Riker.
You do what?
I want
And
a
my
Riker.
second part of that is, if so, who? Like, let's say there's enough budget or enough. Like, I don't think it makes sense to bring everyone back, right?
No, not everybody.
Who are the one or two essential characters that you would
Data,
want? Well, there's no Data in Next Generation, right? Data died, and it's
but Data's
Retcon.
I don't think they would
Fix that
in Nemesis.
I'm just telling you that if there's one character that my family would ooh and ah if to be, a surprise character, can make a cameo even,
It would be Data.
it'd be Data.
But Brent Spiner can't play Data anymore. He's older. Like, Data doesn't age.
that's
Well,
true.
Data's a perfect android.
That you could CG. You could do that.
No.
Yes.
with the face makeup. That would help.
He was
You could
already
take
not
that
looking
on.
great with the final Next Generation films.
Yeah, but it's come a long way. Are you saying you don't want to see that? Like, from a fiction standpoint?
I don't think it needs to be Data.
Okay.
Who's it going to be then? It's going to be Worf.
I
It's
don't
going to
think
be
it's Worf.
No,
Beverly.
I think it's going to be Beverly.
just as a love interest.
I don't think they ever wrapped up the Picard Beverly story. And I could also see
Troy,
Geordi.
Geordi.
I
Yeah.
would love to see Geordi.
I'd love to see Geordi too.
Yeah.
I could see
Because
that.
remember, he was in All Good Things. Geordi was the head of Princeton. He held the Isaac Newton position.
Did he have his eyes?
I think he did.
Yeah, they
Yes.
gave him
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah. LeVar Burton, come on, bring him back.
Yeah.
I think I would be most happy to see Geordi.
He's big on Twitter. LeVar Burton.
Yeah, and Jonathan Frakes has confirmed he's directing.
Oh, that's
the
perfect.
Episode.
Well,
So
that'll
you'll
be
see
great.
his touch. I don't think he'll be in
Really?
the episode.
You know what, though?
Okay.
Just having him directing is going to create the right chemistry.
I hope so.
They all earn their directing chops from directing Star Trek.
Yeah.
From Next Generation to DS9 and Voyager. You had
Did Patrick Stewart ever direct?
that's a really good question. I want to say yes.
I don't remember him.
If
doing
only there was a box that we could ask.
That I think that's it.
that. Yep. But you have something to say.
Oh, I do. Oh, my goodness. Before we continue on with this week's episode, I want to let you know that support for This Is Only a Test this week is made possible by TripleByte, because applying to programming jobs sucks. You have to put in the right keywords in your resume. You spend hours and hours on phone screens and take-home projects, and that's assuming the company even responds to your application. Well, if you're a software engineer, TripleByte can help you. They work with over 400 top tech companies, from big names like Dropbox and Adobe to exciting startups. You do one brief online interview with them, and if you do well, you get to go straight to final interviews with the companies on their platform. It's like the common app for software engineers. TripleByte does not look at your resume or where you went to school. All they care about is if you can code, because that's what really matters, your capabilities and your experience, not that one sheet of paper. Apply now at triplebyte.com/test. That's TripleByte, BYTE, byte as in 8 bits, simple to remember. And as a special offer for listeners of the show, if you take a job through TripleByte, they'll offer you a $1,000 signing bonus. All right. So, again, this is week from news from last week, but we're talking about. Do you remember Steam or Valve tried to put the Steam Link app on iOS like a year ago?
I
and
do.
They were turned down.
Apple didn't have
No.
any part of that.
Yeah. Well, they changed their mind or something happened.
I wonder what happened.
So curious. But basically, this is a way to pipe using Steam, basically what the Steam Link hardware device did,
Yeah.
except pipe the same rendering that you would have on the games on your computer over to a mobile device like your iPhone.
Yeah, so just to be clear, you need to be running the game on your PC or Mac.
Yes.
And then it will stream over your local network
video.
onto your phone or onto your Apple TV,
So essentially, it's just a video stream.
on which you sync either a Steam controller or a MFI gamepad.
Made for iPhone, iOS controller. and you can play mobile games.
No, you can play PC games.
I'm sorry, you can play PC games on your
mobile device.
on your mobile device.
I think this is great.
Like an iPad.
I mean, if you read the 9to5 Mac comments, people are like, well, what's the point? I don't get it. And I think this is awesome. I mean, as someone who doesn't have a game console in my living room anymore, being able to hook up my Steam account to my Apple TV, that sounds wonderful. I'll be able to play, Rocket League.
It's mostly seamless, and I think Steam Home has gotten a lot better in terms of making those launches not require you to go back to your computer and click dialog boxes and tune things on. Of course, you are using your PC, so you can't be
doing something else.
You can't be doing anything else on your PC, really, because it just fills up the screen. But there are a lot of gamepads that have just like phone mounts or iPad mounts. And
the phone stuff I don't get as much.
You like the snapping the controller on the side of the iPad?
No, I want to play on the Apple TV.
On the Apple TV.
That makes a lot more sense to me. The big screen, nice sound.
Yeah.
But then, there's many ways of doing that already.
Like with the Steam Link?
Steam Link.
But they no longer sell that.
Right.
And so this is the thing.
But there wasn't a big demand for that. They stopped selling that.
I know.
So, I wonder how much the Stadia kind of has influenced this as, now this is a legit thing to do.
It's like local Stadia.
Yeah. Like
NVIDIA's done it for a long time with their Shield stuff, and they built in that hardware encoding onto the video cards to not tax the system. It really depends on the game. There are so many games on Steam that are like pick up and play, the Splunky style side scrollers. You don't need to play a big graphical game.
I wonder if Apple just doesn't feel as threatened anymore by something else to do on your phone, because I think I could imagine previously it was they're going to play less iPhone apps at that point.
Maybe because people aren't playing games on their Apple TV, because those games aren't like the games you have on your PC.
Right.
They're allowing this, and this opens up more people to do that.
Maybe Steam also has a little competition these days coming from Epic.
Yeah.
And they're relaxing a little bit and trying to get their stuff out there.
Yeah. We also have big Apple updates. They kind of stealthily updated their MacBook Pro, which is earlier than they usually do. Usually it's kind of like a July, late summer update to their MacBook lines with the most recent or Intel chips. This year, same form factor. It still has that touch bar on the top. They have 9th gen, I believe, Intel chips on them, so slightly a little bit faster. But they also changed the keyboard materials.
Because
not the Switch,
hates...
but just the material.
Like the thing you feel?
No, underneath.
Ah.
So underneath their kind of butterfly keyboard, there's a membrane.
Yeah.
And previous that membrane was a little more gel-like.
Because everybody complained about the feel of the keyboard.
Yes, because dust would get trapped in, and also the keys would just stop working. Without acknowledging that the keyboards were broken, they changed the manufacturing process a little bit, and supposedly that's been fixed. And it has also extended the warranty for broken keyboards and retroactively did that. So if you had a broken keyboard, you would be qualified to get that swapped out or fixed, which is kind of a tacit acknowledgement that there was a problem.
Yeah, this sounds just kind of barely an update.
I mean, Zach, you have chiclet keyboards, right? You're still
no.
Right?
This is a Dell.
Right, but you have chiclets.
Chiclet keys.
Yeah. Those are. I still feel like stick with those.
It works.
It works. I don't
it
need
works.
the butterfly low profile.
That's it. They just want to get smaller and smaller. That sells new ones.
Well, what the MacBook Pros don't have this year, and maybe the reason to wait, is they don't have Intel Ice Lake, the big 10 nanometer mobile,
which would be a big power.
Yes. Well, the idea was that there were rumors that Apple was going to do like a MacBook Pro, like a 16-inch OLED screen, and there are hints of that, and maybe we'll see something at WWDC, but with like the dark mode on Mac OS, which makes sense if you're going to do an OLED screen.
Yeah.
But if they're going to, these MacBook Pros already cost north of $2,000. It's another way for them to say, here's Intel finally has released Ice Lake. You finally in this next year going to see these 10 nanometer chips, low power, 6 cores. Let's charge people $3,000
or $4,000
or $4,000, right? It's kind of what they did with the iMac.
Yeah.
Right, with the black
the
like
super ultra
iMac.
Premium.
Yeah. It's don't expect your standard MacBook Pro to probably get those. They're going to probably tear it up is what they're gonna do.
Standard Apple marketing.
That is their MO. Apple also updated, first time in a long time, the iPod Touch. Who's this for?
Who uses a touch?
Kids?
I always thought it was for kids.
Yeah,
You know,
parents
so
who don't want to buy.
It's a phone. It looks like a phone.
But
it's
everybody
not a
has
phone.
old phones. Like if you
Yeah.
want, that's the thing. It's like
No.
So up to 256 gigs of storage. So your music device runs a A10, which is a couple generations back, but now baseline, all of their stuff, all their iOS devices will have at least an A10 processor. A10 Fusion is $200, which is still a lot cheaper.
I feel like they're just reskinning old phone hardware. Is what it looks like and what it feels like.
I mean, it's not edge to edge. It has a home button,
Yeah.
right? And
it's a 5S.
it's quote unquote affordable, but it's really, really thin, 6
Yeah.
millimeters. So, I'm going to move away from the mic.
Stop touching the table.
I'm not going to touch the table either.
All right. Amazon is reported to be working on an interesting new device, and it's the Echo team. Also, it turns out same team that worked on the Fire Phone,
Yeah.
but mainly it's the Echo team and the team that does the voice assistant, whose name I won't mention.
Right.
Two different teams, but they obviously collaborate. Well, this is a new product that is in the works. It's supposed to read your emotions. It's a wearable,
Sure.
and it will listen to you, and it will hear your tone.
Yeah.
And just like a child or a dog or a podcast host, it will interpret how you're feeling based on not the words that you use, but your intonation.
How loud and
Yes.
your
the tonal
voice?
inflections.
Yeah. Now, why would you want this, you ask? Why would you want the computer to know?
why would I want this, Jeremy?
Well, one possibility, one hypothetical situation that the article on Bloomberg posits is: what if you are you have a sniffle and you ask for a recipe? Well, it might offer you a recipe specifically for chicken soup because you're sick.
That's a lot of inference.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, can it detect if you're making impulsive purchases that you shouldn't be making?
Right.
You might be drunk.
Or like if you're intoxicated.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? Would Amazon ever?
They're not going to
no.
limit. No, they're going to offer you.
deprive you of the surprise and delight of getting a
Easy-
package that you didn't know
yeah.
you're expecting 3 days later?
If it detects that you're drunk, it will make suggestions for purchases.
Oh my goodness.
higher. They're going to just bump up the price of everything when you don't notice.
Wow. A/B test. We're just A/B testing prices.
That's right.
I think this sounds. Does this sound impossible to you guys, or does this
No,
sound?
it doesn't sound impossible.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be super accurate, but I think you'll get some percentage of. But I don't know the utility of it. I mean, other than
Yeah.
it sounds more Big Brother and like, I'm now detecting the, emotional state of my customers.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know the utility of it either, but I do think that as soon as it can give a close approximation to anything resembling empathy, people will respond to it as if it is empathy.
Well, it's
sure.
another.
They will anthropomorphize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a momentum towards wanting that
Oh, absolutely.
relationship.
Well, and I mean, I think right now there is a safety in being a little bit mean to Siri, which,
Yeah.
like,
exactly.
or cold.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's sort of like, especially when Siri doesn't do in the
Echo.
Echo.
Yeah.
Thank you. When your voice assistant doesn't do what you want, there may be more expletives or a stronger tone.
Yeah.
And maybe this will help solve that.
I mean, certainly people are going to have a lot of fun with it. Like there's people who will play off that. But I bet for some people, like my kids already are a little sensitive about that. They don't yell at her.
Right.
There's like I say, there's like there's a desire to want it to be real,
Sure.
even if it's a fantasy.
I mean, it's adding points to the knowledge graph for Amazon, right? There's no reason to think that the data that they get from this, even if it's not applicable to your immediate purchases, won't be associated with some of the purchases you make in your profile and also on the mobile side of the app, so they can then make associations for what people are buying and
when
what
they're
mood
happy.
when they're happy. Exactly.
Oh, for Amazon, it makes total sense. I'm just wondering why they're making this public, as I don't see any utility for the customer.
This is not an Amazon announcement. This is there was a leak. Somebody found out this project is in motion. There are beta units in existence. No one knows if it will ever turn into a product.
But I feel like they could collect this data with anything that's recording the voice that's going to a server. Like this is not doesn't have to be a product.
No, it could absolutely be implemented in software and existing Echoes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also an announcement, we're talking about Amazon and its digital assistant, that the new feature, the new command you can give it is to delete your commands. So you can say the name, delete everything I said today, and it'll erase your history of queries and all your saved utterances. And you can just delete what you said most recently. Delete what it's basically incognito mode for voice commands. Now,
actually, it's not even incognito mode. You can go back and erase.
Yeah, you can go back. Right. It's clearing cache.
Yeah.
Why is that? So that people can't see in your history in your app what you said?
I think a lot of people don't know
Yeah.
that when you set up these devices, you have to use an app, and your family can see the list of commands it's been given.
Yeah.
Now, it's supposed to be used for error checking, right? Like this is, I didn't mean this. I'm helping refine the service, but sometimes you just don't want to clutter up that, or you don't want to have that saved in history, and so it's now. It's such a bit of misdirection because it gives you a false sense of security. This command that Amazon
doesn't remember
anything, but it's really just locally not. They've taken that data, they've processed it already.
Yeah.
They've used it to improve the service, or it's there somewhere. There's no way that this one command is going to wipe your voice from their library.
Yeah.
It's not their library. It's just, like you said, local.
Yeah.
If this is the first step towards being able to delete what I just said in conversation with people,
I take it back.
then this is great.
Well, if you want to project forward and think about a world where we're using augmented reality glasses and you get real-time captions for conversations you're having,
Right.
Real-time translations.
Well, like emails you send, you can unsend. Within the first 5 seconds.
Just think about conversations. If you're having, and it makes sense, like Skype does this now, where it can do real-time translations. If you can allow you to have conversations
if there's a
with
buffer.
someone, and they do it relatively real-time, because there's going to be a buffer in the video anyway, and they in that space, they can get almost in real-time, like the text.
Do you have to pay for that?
I don't think you have to pay for it.
That's amazing.
But people can train themselves, and just like I like watching TV shows with subtitles, I remember the conversations as much as I do with what I heard as what I see. Like what you see visually is an important part of your memory. And if you have AR goggles and I'm seeing the transcript of the conversation I'm having, and then I pull the switch and delete the last paragraph, does that delete it from the actual person's memory? I don't know.
You like watching movies with subtitles?
I like watching movies with subtitles.
But
some movies.
Don't you like watching the action?
I can focus on it. I can do both.
You can't do both.
I can do both.
No one can do both.
I can aim. I can look down and see. I can switch between when there's action and when there's intense conversation. Like Game of Thrones, I like watching with subtitles.
Really?
Yeah. Because I miss things. I miss dialogue.
Okay.
And my brain is wired to process it that way.
Are you a fast reader?
He's more advanced than we are, Jeremy.
I am not a fast reader. No. My reading software needs a complete rewrite.
Along with this announcement with the new commands, Amazon is also releasing a smaller version of their show, which is their kitchen big...
Their alarm clock.
Oh, no, the big one.
This
was the big kitchen
got it.
teleconferencing
the bigger
device.
Screen.
Yeah. And so this new one, which is the Show 5, I believe, is going to have a 5.5-inch screen, which would make more sense as an alarm clock to go alongside their Spot. So the Spot is the one with the circle screen. This one still has a rectangular screen. You kind of choose one or the other. Those devices, I think they're best as alarm clocks. I don't think they do a great amount of ambient display that makes them nice, like
you
living
have one,
room
Jeremy.
pieces.
I have the desktop show, like the first generation. The second generation was bigger. And I don't know. So is this one going to go alongside the old ones?
They will still sell alongside the old ones, and it's just the 5-inch version.
Different form factors.
One cool thing about it is that it's a karaoke machine. So if you ask
it to play a song.
Echo to play a song, it scrolls the lyrics
Yeah.
as it plays the song,
Okay,
which
that's
is
good.
fun. Like to other people in other rooms, I sound like I know every lyric to songs now.
Because you're singing
Yeah,
along.
because I know them all.
Nice. Nice. Do you have ambient information on it, like just time or wallpaper?
Nope, I tend to have that stuff turned off. I don't want it just rotating things. I have a photo on it, and that's it. I put it in like do not disturb mode or something.
There's a device I saw recently that would be perfect for a type of ambient display. It's the Looking Glass. Have you seen this? This is a holographic display
Yeah, it's
from the Looking Glass company.
Yeah, yeah.
Looking Glass factory.
Oh, yeah.
Out in New York.
These are the guys that started doing LED cubes.
Cubes.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, well, before that, they put like slice
Yep.
images in lucite.
They've
Like,
done
kind
a lot of
cross-section.
different 3D display technologies.
Right, and their whole thing was like, how do you get a volumetric image? Is it going to be with like individual slice planes? Is it going to be with like a LED cube with they have massive like 16 by 16 by 16 one, or what they've gravitated toward is a light field display. So something that can display all the views of an object at the same time. Across a designated field of view. And so if you're in that kind of 40, 45-ish degree field of view, you can then move your head around and get parallax. You can look at the almost round objects, and things look like they live inside this
Little fish tank.
Fish tank. And the fish tank is one of the demos they had.
Yeah.
It's like the most perfect. The reason I would want to spend any money on this is, interactivity, and it's a cool volumetric display, but having a digital fish tank.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about experiments that were they had voice sensors, and so could you have the fish and they have touch sensors? Could you have the fish react in real time, render in real time?
Only if the fish know your emotions.
Tap the glass and have it bounce away, swim away from the glass. Like at some point, that can replace the need for having real fish. This is like the kind of Minority Report era fish tank. Anyway, they have a new Looking Glass device which has a built-in computer and a touchscreen menu on the side. It's perfect kind of museum installations,
Right.
or places where you want a lot of people looking at something cool and interacting with
They
it.
they had a couple at Maker Faire.
Oh, they did. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and the kids swarm toward these things because they had like Leap Motion compatibility, so people put their hands in front of it and they can see a reflection of their hands interacting with these objects. But it really feels like having some type of hologram live inside a cube,
Right.
and that's the best we're going to get right now.
Do they have a big commercial partner yet?
I don't think so.
Give it a practical nature.
That's the thing. I don't think they've got a real practical solution. I mean, it's more visualization. I think museum pieces.
I
think
love that they're experimenting with this stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Just wonder where it's going to land.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Because it's still expensive to manufacture right now.
Custom optics and,
Yeah,
and
exactly,
displays.
right?
Yeah.
And it looks good, and it can always be. It's like the first gen VR. It's really cool, but like for the layman who doesn't understand how much
Right.
tech has to go into rendering these light fields,
It's like, well, why is it so small? I want it 5 times as big.
Or
and
how
all-
is it? Why is it so low resolution? It's
Right,
like, well,
all
because you're
of those.
splitting against all these different views. But like for us to understand, like that is a pretty good achievement.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It looks really nice.
Yeah. Quick car stuff. You ever see those cruise cars drive around San
All the
Francisco?
time.
All the time.
They
More
drive
than
my
it.
car. Of course I see them.
They drive the no longer sold Chevy Volt.
No, they drive the Bolt.
Oh, they drive the Bolt.
Yeah.
Okay.
The $1 billion EV from Chevy. You're familiar with it.
Yeah.
They actually
Okay.
still sell the Volts. You can get them at a relatively good price right
It's
now.
discounted.
It's discounted.
Have you seen that chart that shows over the past 10 years the sales for EVs? And Volt was like at the top with like
A chunk.
a huge chunk, and then the past 2 years,
Yeah.
the Model 3 just went. Whoop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
It's an animated video GIF. Anyway, the Cruise, which is run by GM as their self-driving division, released a video that's shown that not only are they doing tests in San Francisco, they're doing unprotected left-hand turns, and they've done over 1,400 of these, which is, I guess, a good number of successes. San Francisco would be the perfect place to test that because there's so many of these.
It says 1,400 within a 24-hour period.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of left turns, man. Jeez.
Across their entire fleet.
Yeah.
I just wonder how many of those failed.
Yeah, they're not going to do that. No. Yeah. I mean, this is a small step, and the amount of confidence they have on this is, it's slightly reassuring. We haven't had big news stories of these cruise cars in accidents yet.
No bad cruise news, at least that I've heard.
Can you describe what an unprotected left turn is?
It's when you the car on the other side of the street is just, there's no turn signal for them, or no stoplight for them, no green turn signal for you. You're going to make a left turn, but you got to wait for all the cars in the distance, whether around corners or directly ahead, to pass and find that opening to turn.
Gotcha.
Usually around here, it's when the light turns yellow and you get one car going through the intersection.
Right, which is that's a very tough problem for autonomous vehicles to solve.
I would imagine that's a stressful time for the safety driver.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, because there's people crossing usually. Because again, you're also going against a active crosswalk often.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're letting the car do its thing, but you at a moment's notice, you got to take control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last bit of car news. This is a kind of weird bit of tech. Jaguar is testing a sensory steering wheel that will heat up to let you know that you have a notification.
What?
Yeah. When you need to change lanes, the left side of the wheel might become hot to let you know you gotta change lanes to the left.
It seems like a temporally slow interface.
No. Like, we've done these VR interfaces that are really fast. They heat up and they cool and they stop touching.
I'm not touching anything.
They heat up and they cool down like almost instantaneously.
It still seems odd.
Oh, for sure. This is really weird. I mean, what's wrong with the clicking sound?
Yeah. I mean, do you use that taptic feedback on your Apple Watch where it taps you when you need to make a certain turn and a certain pattern? Does that register at all?
Yes.
It doesn't register for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll turn off audio, and so I'll sort of be tuned into it. I don't know.
But can you differentiate between the left and right turns needed based on the pattern?
Oh, no.
You just know it's just a notification that
Yeah,
a turn
there is a
is
turn.
needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works for me, but yeah.
I don't know that I would know that my hand was getting hot. That's part of the problem. Like the hand temperature changes so much.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's
It
odd.
would need to be pretty high, and at some point,
You're gonna want
making
to
the steering wheel
let go.
Yeah, right. Giving you a reason to let go of the steering wheel is not what a car company should do.
Should encourage.
Okay, bit of classic arcade news.
Oh, yeah? Oh,
Is
yeah.
this-
The Atari?
Yes.
So do you remember this, that they're remaking the Atari VCS?
Mhm,
They announced this, gosh, what was it, last year?
Yeah.
Cool looking, it's like reminiscent of the original Atari 2600. You can get the wooden version or the plastic version. Well, they finally showed off the controllers and...
Render.
they're renders of the controllers, and sure enough, you can get two versions, thankfully. You can get the original 2600 joystick, which has two buttons now. One up top, just like it should be, and then there's a second one down below.
Shoulder button.
Yeah, and it sounds like you can have those be two different buttons. Like, they don't have to be, they're not necessarily
It's
the same
breaking
button.
canon.
It does break canon, but it will open design up to be two-button games. And you can get a gamepad, which is straight up Xbox 360 style gamepad, but same stylings, single red button for the button, and everything else is black, a little bit of orange. And this VCS console should be up for sale later this year.
Maybe they should change their launch strategy and take a page out of the playbook or Playdate.
Yeah, and do
Oh,
a
do
subscription.
Do subscription, release one on a
one
regular basis, because
Like everybody's already, like, that is not entirely new, right? Like the PlayStation and Xbox, they both have their PlayStation Plus and whatever the Xbox does equivalent.
Right. The
Where you
monthly-
get free games every single month, and as long
Yes.
as you stay a subscriber, you get all the archived games.
Right.
So it's like people have done.
But that's
that.
not the only thing you could play.
I know.
And when you make it the only thing you can
in
play,
only one game.
Well, now
then
maybe the
becomes
other
an
thing is to
event.
put a time limit on the game itself. So you get the game for a month and then it goes away.
Right, you have to play it.
You have to play it.
Yeah.
So then there's some urgency.
That's really banking on the strength of the hardware to be compelling, the game experience. to
I
be
mean, well,
compelling.
all of it has to be.
And none of this is. I mean, I guess the Atari has the old nostalgic joystick, which is compelling, but I don't know if they're developing new games to take advantage of that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, a lot of retro stuff.
No sign of a paddle either, which is, I want the paddle.
You got to have
Although,
your paddle for
I think-
Pong and
did I read-
Breakout.
I think the joystick actually might serve as a paddle. I think it rotates.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It has a yaw.
Mm-hmm. A yaw.
Before we continue on with the podcast, I want to let you know that support for This Is Only a Test also comes this week from McAfee. Longtime listeners to Tested know the value of experimentation. If you want to get to the bottom of a popular assumption, you have to put it to the test. And cybercrime has been all over the news on TV shows like Black Mirror, and you might be wondering, how concerned should you be about your personal devices and data? Are you a couple keystrokes away from losing your identity? Is the Amazon Echo going to spill your most embarrassing secrets? Well, Hackable, an original podcast from McAfee, answers these questions and more with real-life hacks. It's kind of like Mr. Robot. They can be found, the podcast can be found on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. In each episode, Hackable host Jeff Siskind invites a white hat hacker to try to hack a device he's using. They've tested everything from laptops and webcams to drones, virtual reality headsets, and smart plugs. And in season 4, they'll see if friendly hackers are able to crack smartphones, all-in-one printers, smart kettles, and more. Listen and subscribe to Hackable today on all major podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts and Stitcher.
I'm a pinball nerd. Pin. Just to my point. Finally, pinball. That makes me very happy. The classic games from the 90s, particularly from Williams Bally, they are always ever decreasing. You can find them on location from time to time, but generally speaking, like, they are deteriorating and becoming fewer and fewer. And
this is the urgency.
And they are becoming more and more expensive. So people are less excited to put them on location, because on location they still earn the same amount of money that they did 20 years ago, 50 cents. And if you're paying twice as much for the game, it takes a lot longer to make that investment back. So people are keeping them at home. So what are you to do besides buy one? You can play them emulated. And you've been able to play emulated pinball for a long time, of course, with PinMame, but the emulation is only as good as, fans can make it. Finally, we had Zen Pinball acquire the pinball license to remake the Williams games earlier this year, or was it late last? And they've been remaking them slowly but surely, and Volume 4 of their Williams Classics is now out. And they include Whitewater, one of the all-time best pinball machines. This pinball machine has music in it that changes the better you do. So if you progress well in the game, it adds layers to the soundtrack and ups the tempo.
Nice.
It's awesome. I don't think any of the pinball games ever done that. Roadshow, Pat Lawler Classic, Two Heads Talking. Remember Funhouse with the talking Rudy head? Well, this is Roadshow, his follow-up game, Wide Body with two talking heads, construction-themed, and also Hurricane, one of their famous carnival-themed games, Williams games. And so there aren't that many original IPs left. Like, Williams did a lot of original IPs back then. The other half of their games were licensed games, like Addams Family and Terminator 2 that we talked about. Those are going to be a lot more expensive to produce because they got to get the rights. And the last guys who had the license to make these games did Kickstarters in that case. Star Trek The Next Generation being one of them. So I wonder if we'll see Zen Studios doing Kickstarters going forward. I don't know, or if they'll just fund them themselves if they are seeing the downloads and sales to justify it. But in any case, I love that they're doing this. Because their remakes are the best yet. And all we want now is virtual reality versions.
For PinSim.
Yeah, I would play it on PinSim for sure. I'd love to play this on PC, and I'd love even more to play it on Quest, because that means that I could bring this headset to League or elsewhere and just put the PinSim down, let people play pinball at it.
Yeah.
I hope that they're working on that, man, because there's been no talk from Zen Studios about anything since Quest has come out, so I don't know what they're working on. I did ping their product manager. He said it's likely we'll play pinball on the Quest. He didn't say in what capacity. But we want it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We
More
want
games, yeah.
Yeah, but pinball.
I know.
And
Pinball
specifically
especially.
the Williams games. I mean, if you can play those in VR,
Your life would be complete.
You would need to
I
buy
think
another pinball machine.
A
Yeah?
lot of people would be very happy doing that and not getting a pinball machine for themselves.
You see the Pacific Pinball Museum is doing a big sale?
Yeah, another one.
You gonna go?
I went before. It's a lot of older games that I'm less interested in, but it's like 60s through 70s. there's a lot of games there, a lot of good prices too. So if you're in the Bay Area and you want to buy a pinball machine, that might be something to look into.
Alrighty.
What are we doing now?
We're doing our last segment.
It's gonna be VR minute.
Let's do it.
The VR Minute. Virtual reality this week.
I just want to do that all day long.
Yeah, it's fun, right?
Yeah.
You want one on each side of your back, and you want to like.
Nice.
Whoa, what should we talk about in VR this week? Probably a little longer than a minute. Well, two big things. One, the Augmented Reality Expo, Augmented World Expo.
Aw.
2019 is going on right now,
Oh my.
and as you're listening to this, probably we'll be there.
Santa Clara.
Yeah, in Santa Clara. It was a really good event last year. Surprising for us.
Yeah, man. I mean, augmented reality being further out than virtual reality in terms of like a fruition technology. I expected it to be a smaller crowd of people supporting it, but it's actually much bigger.
Yeah.
I think people see the commercial benefits
Value.
and value in AR much better, easier, or with higher potential than they saw it in VR.
And of course, since last year when we went, a lot of those companies aren't necessarily around. When we're talking about things like Meta.
But things like Magic Leap are.
Exactly. I don't know what their presence is going to be. They kind of do their own thing.
Right.
But there will be a couple big companies, one of which we saw last year is Vario. This is the VR headset maker that use a novel way to do fixed foveated rendering, essentially. They combined two displays in each eye, one very high pixel density, one more standard resolution, and where the center of your eye, center of your field of view, sees a very high resolution, I think 1080p panel.
But it doesn't track your eye.
It does not. Well, they have eye tracking, but the rendering
The
there
rendering
does
can't,
not
'cause it'd
track
have to
your eye.
move
So
the
it's
screen.
fixed foveated,
Right.
exactly.
It uses an optical combiner to combine the two
Yeah.
screens, right? So it's an optical illusion that the screens are overlaid.
Exactly. And it's convincing. It doesn't look like they're stacked. It looks like one screen just has a sharper center. They talked about last year how they can kind of change the way it blends in. And I was able to use their latest shipping version of that XR or VR1. And the center was bigger than I remembered it being.
I remember them saying they increased it.
And it was also a nicer blend.
Cool.
And so
Nice.
that was nice. But what they're announcing this week
Well,
is...
Can we just say that the effect of that center in the prototype was jaw dropping? Like,
Yes.
it really is magnificent
Because it's so much sharper.
It's really like retina sharp. Like that center of the screen, it looks like the world is supposed to look. I mean, then you're down to like how well can you render it?
Sure.
But the resolution is fantastic, and I assume that you had a good experience from the.
Good experience.
Yeah.
And since last year, we've used things like the HP Reverb. So we've used very high resolution panels. And even after using that, this felt better. I wouldn't say perfect. I could, I can still see in the rendering where I could see maybe some bit of improvements in the aliasing.
Could you see the pixels? Could you discern them?
I think I could see the pixels if
Okay.
I really, really focused on it. But the point is that it was a smooth experience. Like, it didn't feel like it was out of place, that center, real sharp area.
Did they give it an MSRP for the?
I don't know.
The VR
They're
headset?
shipping it already.
They are.
So
This is for commercial.
yeah, it's for business.
yeah.
It's for business. It's under enterprise. And also for enterprise is what they're announcing this week is a AR attachment, which we saw an early version of. It's a pass-through system where they're taking two wide-angle cameras, and passing through the real world into your view, into your VR view, and then letting you then put digital objects on top of it. And they had a partnership with Volvo. And so I actually got to try this demo. It's going to be at AWE. We're going to get you in it so we can talk about it on the show. But I was in an empty office space. And they had a big empty room space that's bigger than this room here. And then they just pressed a button, and the skeleton of a car started forming. Like,
So you're seeing the room
I'm seeing the room.
through a camera system
Yep.
in your fully blocked goggles. So it's pass through video.
Completely pass through, and the video pass through they're claiming is the lowest latency, highest frame rates, 90 frames a second video at 15 milliseconds from capture to your eye, which I was doing the shaking hand test, and it felt very low latency.
So it's sort of like Pass-Through Plus on the Rift S, where you're seeing the real world, but it's full color.
Full color, and they're not doing any kind of reprojected mapping on geometry, so it's just stereo video. But it was very responsive.
Okay.
Like to a fact where I could use my phone and check my email.
But did you feel disconnected with that? Like, what, or was it? Could your brain get to a point where you?
I mean, it's not the real world. It still looks like I'm looking at video. And the biggest indicator of that isn't in necessarily the frame rate or the refresh rate, but the biggest indicator is in light, right? I was in an office where I could look outside a window and exposure would change. And the fact that they're doing exposure changes based on like a center focus exposure or some type of average, like they're never going to get full HDR.
Right.
On with these type of panels.
But what this kind of AR does is it allows you to have fully opaque augmented imagery.
And
in reality.
fully, not just opaque, but fully aligned. You get no drift between the virtual object and the video because they are also mapping. And so what they did was they then basically warped in a car model, a full 1-to-1 size car model that looked so good in this headset. To the point where they did a little bit of trickery where they ahead of time did like a light reflective map of the room, and they put that on the car. So it's not real-time reflections, but it's convincing enough so the hooded car looked like it was bouncing off the reflection from the ceiling. So it looked like it was in the room. And especially with the resolution at the center of this, I got in the car and sat in like a chair, and I was looking around, and it looked like almost photoreal.
Wow.
What do you mean you got in the car?
Like the door opened.
Yeah,
and
but there's no
walked through
physical thing,
They
right?
put a chair where the seat would be.
Gotcha.
I sat in the chair, and I sat in it, and it felt like I was inside the car.
But did you see the person put the chair there? Like, how did that?
When they had the wireframe car model, they rolled the chair in place, and they said, "Okay, sit in that chair," and then they kind of phased that car around me.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to get out. I was like, looking for the door, and I was looking in the mirrors and looking at and they're using it like Volvo has all their car models. They're using it for test instrument cluster, but more importantly, they're using it for safety testing, where they can have people in real cars driving on closed courses and even in public places and have pass-through AR objects like a moose come into the frame and test people's reaction and have the eye tracking to see where people are looking at when objects come into view.
Sure. For doing studies and research, that
And
totally
safety
makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the trippy thing is that they were able to, it's full field of view because it's everything that's being passed through to your eyes, right? It's not like a HoloLens or Magic Leap where you're looking through
a small
optics
square.
and you can only get the rendered object in a small square. They can get your rendered object filling because it's essentially just a VR headset.
It's the full VR field of view.
And so they can press a toggle and they can basically put you in a different place and have it kind of fill up the room and then warp you back in. And it's really trippy. Like the animation they have, it basically comes out of the floor. So like I'm sitting in the car, I'm looking out of the car windows, and I'm seeing everyone else in the room that's talking to me. And they press a button, and suddenly, like oozing out is another environment, and I'm in Italy, the car in Italy, and I lost sight of everyone. And then they press another button, and then it comes back.
Holodeck.
Yeah, it's basically a little bit like that. Yeah.
I got to tell you, one of the things that impresses people the most about the Quest is leaving your play space
Guardian.
and seeing Guardian come up and then turning around and seeing the wireframe of your play space in your living room.
Right.
Seeing that augmented into your own world space. That is augmented reality.
Yeah, because they're mapping the floor.
Yeah.
And they have a floor to ceiling and, and whatever squiggly line grid you draw, border you drew.
And they've got the Dead Reckoning down really well. Like they can just keep tracking.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, we'll be chatting with them at Augmented World Expo. The other thing is that preview embargo was lifted for the Valve Index. So Jeremy, you and I have spent a week with it. I have been playing it more these past couple nights.
Good.
And we can't have final verdicts yet, but I really like it.
Yeah, good.
I think comfort, huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the clarity of the resolution and especially the field of view are the big things. I'm going between that and a Rift S, and I will say I like the optics on the Rift S more.
Mm-hmm.
just in terms of the iBox sweet spot. But once I'm in Index, I mean, the audio is so much better.
Audio's amazing.
The comfort is so good. And of course, the new Index Knuckles style controllers are really good.
Yeah, I think the controllers and the audio are big sellers for me in the field of view, for sure.
I'm still kind of undecided about the controllers.
Yeah. I mean, compared to the original ones.
Oh, easy,
Yeah.
100%.
But compared to touch.
Compared to touch, it's the fundamental difference between what a grip action should be. Right? It's really cool on the Knuckles controls. You can see it in the video we did. When you close your hand, it's a force sensor. So they in the Steam Home environment, if you squeeze, your model actually gets it's a tighter fist. You can do the Arnold meme. You can actually squeeze your fist. You can't really do that with the touch. There's no. It's open or closed and kind of in between. It's grip or no grip.
I think that the Index controllers lend themselves more toward to the dream of VR, which is like making more of an analog to the real world.
But there
present
is
in the virtual.
Haptics.
There is analog, but there's no travel. There's no physical travel.
Right, you don't have the haptic.
The haptic of a grip button. You know, on the touch controller, the grip button being, I don't know, 1 centimeter of travel, if that, and having fine motor control.
They never thought you needed it. With the wands, they were binary. Like the
And
side
I didn't like that
buttons.
either. I really didn't like that.
I just didn't like their placement.
And that's the one thing I think about the Index controllers. I wish they had some type of haptic button or something to let me know half grip, full grip, rather than squeeze, because not everything's just going to be
a solid thing.
Solid small thing too.
Right.
Making a fist to grab everything doesn't always work for me.
Yeah.
Well, it's an incremental step.
Yeah. But everything we want to say so far, I think, is in our video. Is there any other things you want to add, Jeremy?
No. Did we? I don't think we talked about the racing game that I played. I played Red Out, and it was. I've tried it because this headset runs at 120 or 144 hertz.
It's amazing.
Right. And when I found, did we? We didn't use this.
I don't
in
think
the edit,
we.
right?
Yeah.
And I played it at 90, and the game is very intense. It does some things in VR that people probably, if they're cautious, wouldn't do.
Me.
Right.
That's me.
Yeah. And what I found was that it was uncomfortable at 90 hertz.
Wow.
But then when I went to 120, it was much more comfortable.
Really?
And I assume that it had to do with the additional frame rate and the fact that I was getting more frames when I would do fast changes, like especially vertically. So if I go over a hill, that's where I would really feel the nausea at 90. But at 120 or 144, there was so many more frames as I went over those hills that it just created a better sense of comfort.
I'm getting nauseous just thinking about this. So
yeah, I'll stop.
Thank you.
And people have asked, can you really tell the difference between 120 and 144? And I can. Like, I prefer 144.
I think anybody who can if they do a test, but
AB.
Practically speaking, I think that 120 will make such a dramatic difference over 90 that you won't need the 144 necessarily.
Right.
Diminishing returns.
And we will acknowledge, PSVR does 120 natively for some games, or they do some frame doubling for other games.
Do they do? I don't think they ever support native 120.
They did for a few.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you need a video card that can pump out the data.
Well, PS4.
For
For PS4,
Yeah,
but I'm
absolutely.
saying, but any of these new
For Index.
headsets, yeah.
Yes, you do. Same with the reverb. You need something that can pump out the res.
Anything else? Oh, well, bunch of Quest stuff. We'll run through some of the
There's
Quest
a
stuff that's
lot
happened.
of Quest stuff. So for me, okay, so we are 1 week and 1 day into the release of the Oculus Quest. Do you have one?
No, but I played it at your house.
You gotta get one. Everyone's getting one.
Jeremy's the pusher.
You can't everyone's sold out. Like, I don't. Have you tried to buy one? Because they're sold out on Best Buy. They're sold on Amazon. Everybody, Walmart, they all have them out of stock. They're going to be in stock in a couple weeks. Even the Oculus Store, which is interesting because when we got our review unit, I asked Oculus if they were expecting any stock problems at all, and they said we don't think so. They laughed about it, and I buy that. I think that they probably aimed to a reasonable number, and I think that this is selling better than they expected. From anecdotally, if you go online, there's a lot of people who have shown this to people who have said, okay, hold on, I'll be right back. They go out and they buy one. This is a $400 investment versus what has been previously over $1,000.
I mean, also it's
And all the complexity.
$400. Let's be clear. $400 impulse buy is still a lot of money.
For most people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt. But people have been spending $400 on games for decades now. So it's not unheard of, and they probably just didn't expect this to be what it is. And this is the full-fledged 6 DoF experience in a mobile.
It's a
form
VR
factor.
console, right? Like it is what you
Game Boy,
Yeah.
portable thing. Right. So anyway, that's where we're at right now. Now, there's been a lot of people asking questions, and to John Carmack, because apparently Oculus officially doesn't respond to you, but John Carmack will. So people go on Twitter. He's a nice guy, and he got permission to say 3 things.
Ooh.
Dual controller input is coming, which means you'll be able to aim at keyboard and type and do it like you can on Dash on PC. You get
So
two cursors on screen.
Right.
Lights out mode. This is interesting. So have you ever tried using it in the dark? It doesn't work.
because the camera can't see.
The camera can't see anything. And so it asks you to turn on the lights, and so it can do anything. So it does not act as a Go currently with the lights off, but that's coming. It will become a 3DoF headset with the lights out optionally.
Who uses it in the dark?
Netflix.
I mean, you're gonna have like some ambient light.
Everybody who uses a Go has had this experience where they use it in the dark. Like, it's just, you don't need any ambient light to use the Go.
I feel uncomfortable.
Really?
Because if I take off the headset, I'm in the dark.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the dark when I'm taking off the headset.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you could also like just take your phone and like turn on the flashlight and aim at the ceiling. That's enough ambient light for the Quest to work.
Okay. Not a feature Norm's looking forward to. Are you? Let us know in the comments. Also, 60 FPS
Mode
is coming.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's locked at 72 now. I did not know that. I knew that they were sort of require. Maybe I did know this because I had heard from one of the devs that they were requiring 72 hertz. Big Screen had said this publicly, but I didn't know that you absolutely couldn't
Like,
access
there's not a mode
60 hertz mode.
for 60 FPS video. It doesn't work at 72 well.
So now, and I assume other devs will have access to it too. If they need to work at a lower frame rate, they can. Certainly, like Rec Room is not always hitting 72. It's certainly dropping. So there's like you can force it to drop accidentally, but apparently you'll be you'll have the ability to say I want 60 hertz native, and that's good. All good things. What else? Beat Saber custom songs. Somebody figured it out. They hacked into the Quest and they got a custom song working. Apparently, it's not easy to do yet, but
I'm sure that'll happen soon.
1 week, and they figured that out. V-Ridge.
Wait, but
What?
Beat Saber has come out to say that they're gonna allow it in future updates. Custom levels for Beat Saber requests are coming in future updates.
Did they say that for sure?
Yeah, as of today.
They keep
Wow.
breaking the one on the Rift, like every update.
Yeah, from Beat Saber, Oculus Quest, we're adding support for custom levels for quests in one of the future updates. You'll
Wow.
be able to create custom levels on
you
the
go.
PC and then import them.
V-Ridge, somebody got that working pretty rapidly last week.
What is that?
It's basically Steam Link. So you
Yeah.
can play Steam, but you can play VR games. So it's not like Steam Link, it's VR Steam Link. So you can play VR games on your PC, stream it over your local 5 gigahertz network, and play full-fledged, PC Beat Saber on the Quest.
It's a reason to have like the best router, 5 gigahertz router,
Yeah.
like, in the room where your PC and
Have you
Quest
guys tried
are.
this?
Not yet. I've read that there's you still have compression, definitely a little bit of
Right.
latency, but I'll be trying it for sure.
People are playing Beat Saber on Pro mode, and they're playing it. Like, apparently the latency is not bad, but
Or you can compensate for it.
It is noticeable. My fear is that if it's at all noticeable, I won't be happy with it. But it's still something I'd like to try. Quake VR for Quest will happen. Porting's going to take some time, but that's exciting. Carmack also said that close to headset controller tracking, which is an issue, is being worked on.
Now, there's no hardware solution for that.
Nope.
It is just going to be just-
Filtering.
Yeah, the changing when it knows it's by your head, they will rely more on IMU. They'll do a little bit more prediction, but there are some games that just don't work well right now because you can't see.
Right.
And Gravity Sketch is confirmed coming to Quest, which is a really cool modeling app.
Yeah.
Polygonal modeling app. And so we've got Tilt Brush, and now we'll have a polygonal app. That's exciting.
Yeah. Speaking of Quake, something we didn't talk about in tech, we're talking about NVIDIA at Computex did a demo using their new 2080 cards, which is ray traced Quake
Actual.
2.
I saw that.
And it looks amazing.
Yeah, just look amazing. And it looks partially amazing because they did a lot of cool stuff with the lighting.
They added like
they moved lights.
They had like sunlight coming through. It was like Blade Runner lights were moving.
Yeah.
The lights. It just. Do you remember going from software to accelerated?
Yeah.
Back in Quake, it was world changing.
Worlds are different.
Not just like the color lighting, but also the smoothness. This is like that amount of upgrade. Now I don't know what resolution it was running at, or the frame rate.
Well,
what is playable?
It's not like it's going to be very limited. It's a 2080 card.
It could be 720 only.
But
720p.
if it's doing ray tracing, it's doing a trace per pixel.
Yeah, and
So
how many
that makes a
bounces? How many
huge-
bounces they set it to?
Okay.
Right.
And so they call it real time.
Mhm.
A lot of questions, but like Will said on Twitter, he could see the new HD remake be the ray trace remake for classic PC games.
And some small fraction of people can play it with their
Now,
with their cards.
if you're spending that much money, $1,000 on a video card,
you get
and you have a love for classic PC games,
sure.
this is a way to have some type of ray trace remake, revisit those games and see them the way your brain remembers them.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of acceptance that the devs do, because obviously that's going to be a pretty intense engine change to work with the ray trace graphics.
What do you mean?
Well, just all of the assets, all of everything is going to
yeah.
have to look better, like and the amount of effort that's going to have to go into it. And are you going to put that much effort into it, knowing that you're only supporting a small fraction of the users?
Well,
as time goes.
Yes, that's true. I imagine there's probably some mod packs out there that have already upgraded the textures for just high res play. Maybe they've upgraded more than that. I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see.
I would love to see any of the old games, even Quake 1.
What would be
Ray
your
trace
favorite ray trace, like Quake 2 era game?
Quake 3. I mean, I was a huge Quake 3 player, so I'd love to play that.
You're gonna need to wait, because Quake 3 you're gonna need higher frame rates.
Right.
You're gonna
It was
want
way more twitchy.
way more twitchy. Like, God, Thief.
Yeah.
Thief 2. Oh,
That'd be good.
Jedi Knight.
Oh, yeah, that'd be nice.
Lightsabers. Jedi Knight. with ray
Could
trace.
I just have Dark Forces?
But that was
It was 2.5D.
that
Yeah.
was never
Couldn't do that.
polygonal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to get a Wolfenstein. Sorry.
Really like Jedi Knight. I mean,
Dark Forces
Dark
2
Forces.
or Dark Forces 1.
yeah.
Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight, Jedi 2 Jedi Academy.
One other piece of news is not VR related, but is tangentially related. Is Rec Room is coming to your phone. You'll be able to go on quests.
More players.
On your phone. I don't know. How's that going to play? I'm not sure that they're going to get gamepad working right out of the gate. That was actually a question that was asked in the Q&A on YouTube, and there wasn't a definitive answer to that. So if you really are just playing on touch, with touch controls, how are you doing all that stuff? What are you doing? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, it depends which games you're playing, though, too.
they really are trying to open this up so anybody can play it on any device. And it started out as a VR exclusive community. And there's people who have very strong feelings about this.
But if you're just playing
Present
paintball,
company included.
but if you're just doing paintball or just doing some of the more simple
Yeah.
interactions,
They did a really smart thing, which is like there's a lot of customization. So you can actually say, I only want to play with my VR brethren.
right?
And you can do that. Maybe you'll be able to do
Oh,
that
boy.
with phone stuff too. Maybe you can only play with phone people.
I would imagine the phone people would be easier to shoot.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Put them in the game.
You don't want them on your team.
Oh, that's true. Okay. Yeah. If I could say I can jump into a lobby with all the platforms, but
but
my
only
team
play with
only VR headsets, then
Yeah.
yes.
You need to feel good about yourself. That's what you
yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
the discrimination. VR discrimination.
I'm sorry.
do. Oh, and sixth off Minecraft. So if somebody has, basically sideloaded Minecraft from the Gear VR build right onto the Quest, and it just worked with sixth off, like no hands,
Okay.
but head tracking worked
Oh, I
just
see.
right out of the box.
Huh.
Yeah.
Is the time for Minecraft VR passed already?
No. You kidding? No, definitely not.
I never felt like that was going to be a. I know John Carmack
Yeah.
really felt like it was an important part of
I know.
VR.
Yeah.
I never bought into it.
I like the AR when they were doing some of the AR stuff where that
HoloLens, yeah.
with HoloLens, that actually seemed really sort of engaging with Minecraft.
Right.
But the VR stuff,
I don't know. It's a place to be creative. I mean, Rec Room's kind of getting there. in terms of what you can do with their tool set. But Minecraft, you can make computers. Like there's a lot of creativity going on.
I just don't know that VR adds anything. Like I feel like for that creativity, you could do it just as well on the desktop.
Yes. No, that's true. That's true. I'm not sure what it brings, but it is such a phenomenon that I think even if you have a percentage of that user base in VR doing it,
Sure.
they would enjoy themselves.
And I think that does it for this week's episode. Thank you, Zach, so much
Oh, you're welcome.
for joining us this week. Anything you want to plug? Anything you're working on?
Oh,
Stay tuned for the super secret stuff.
that's right. Stay tuned. Yeah, it's coming.
We can say, because it's public, that he helped out on the episode.
Is it?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Adam actually tweeted at me. So
Okay.
yeah, so I did play a small part in the new Savage Builds television show, which starts airing June 12th.
Yeah. I can't
Science
wait
Channel.
to see the episode you worked on.
Me too.
I really can't.
I
wait.
just can't wait to be able to talk about it.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I worked on it too.
Sorry, Jim. You were volunteer number. You were the final
That's right.
volunteer in
That's right.
Mythbusters. You had your moment in the sun.
That's true.
And we have an outro this week.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to promote on tested.com?
Oh, we just have a lot of videos. These VR videos, these Maker Faire videos. Please check those out. We have one new builds coming up. It's a pretty packed month on the site. And I think the next big event we'll be at is E3. So, let us know if you're showing something cool off at E3. All right. Outro.
All right. Justin, a.k.a. Speed.
Hi there, I didn't see you.
Yeah, I guess there are other movies to tell James, like Avatar 2 and 3 and 4 and Aliens and Alien, whatever other alien movies he made.
That's a good one.
Bye.
Bye.